I'm just gonna say right now, this video is gonna have probably very, very harsh opinions about the movie. And if you don't like harsh opinions, I don't recommend you to watch this video. I'm just gonna say right now, I just want to spare you, okay? I'm just, you know what, let's just go right into it. I don't like the movie, okay? I'm just gonna flat out say, I don't like the movie. So if you don't want me talking bad about the movie, there will be some good things. You know what, I'll say that, okay? Yes, even though this movie was a straight abomination, there was some good things about it. And I will praise the movie for those good little things. So, but anyways, if you don't want to hear some negative opinions on Death Note's live-action adaptation that came out on Netflix, do not watch this video. Just leave a dislike, go. Because I don't want to waste your time, and I don't, think you want to hear me yelling, ranting, or whatever about, the movie. So, with that being said, let's carry forward. This movie tries to adapt a 12-volume manga series into an hour and 30 minutes plus worth of content. For instance, imagine compressing about 6 light novels, okay, into one episode. That's equivalent to kind of what this was. I mean, I guess light novels are a little bit more extreme, but it's like saying, let's press 3 light novel volumes, or like 2 light novel volumes into an episode, and that's what you get. There's a lot of content compressed together, and so there's obviously not enough time to explain everything, and so the only people that are really going to be able to appreciate this, if somehow you can appreciate it, is the original fans that have seen the original content. If you're new to Death Note, like if this is your first time entering into the series, then this is not a way to start, because a lot of things aren't really explained, they're left out in the open, and you're just wondering like, okay, so what's gonna happen, or what's going on here, what does this mean? And clearly, I don't know what the people that were working on this movie were trying to do, what audience they were trying to go for, because when it came to adapting the original source, they tried to stick with the theme, but it went beyond the original theme, and it, tried to push it away. And then they tried to change the scenery and all that to set more into a American viewpoint, and it still didn't work. It felt like it just didn't work because the audience they were going for the original fans or, the newer fans, it was so split down the line, you're like, no one really is going to be able to appreciate this, no matter what side you're on. I mean, if you're a new person to the series, and this is your first time seeing Death Note, you're not really going to appreciate this series. And if you're a fan of the series, the original content and stuff, coming into this movie, you'll be like, what the fuck? They're skipping all these great scenes from the manga or anime that I would love to see in a live action, and they don't even show it. There is a lot of scenes that are not shown in this movie, which is to be expected. It's a movie. It's an hour and 30-minute movie trying to compress 12 volumes into a fucking movie. Obviously, there will not be things there, but still, even then, they did it. They could have made this a TV series, which would have been much better, but they didn't do that. They didn't make like a 12-episode, 10-episode TV series. They decided to make a movie, which automatically was a very bad decision. If they would have made parts, like, part 1, part 2 of Death Note or something, that would have been fine. But the big problem here, besides just the abomination of the adaptation or the acting or whatever, is just the time constraint. The time constraint of the movie, it was too little. It should have been much longer than it was. It should have, at the very least, have been like a 2-hour something movie then, if they're wanting to compress it into a movie, or they should have had it in parts, or they should have made a TV series. That would have been the best thing to do for Death Note. It deserved a TV series. It would have been a very nice TV series if it spent episodes building up and having like this thriller build up and suspense going on, trying to wonder if Light's going to get out of trouble or whatever, just similar to how the anime or manga was. But they didn't do that. So automatically, that was very bad. That was a very bad way to just initiate. Now, before I go any further, I don't hate the movie because it's a live action. I just want to completely state that right now. I don't dislike the movie just because it's a live action. I dislike it because of just how the movie was handled, the acting, how the characters were, and how they try to nod to the original, but they don't do it any justice. It's like they shit over the source material. So, let's talk about Light. So, Light, as a character, he is the MC. He is the MC in Death Note. In this new Death Note, he's called Light Turner, not Light Yagami, or Yagami Light, in the original Death Note anime and manga. So there's core differences there. The last name, or whatever, the first name actually is a lot different. Turner, and then, Yagami. And the reason for this is because Death Note, the, Light Yagami version, or whatever, in Japan anime and manga, that was based in Japan, while this series is based in America. So, obviously, you can't have someone called Light Yagami in America, because it wouldn't really make much sense. So, Light Turner, it makes sense for trying to bring it to the States or whatever. So, I'm fine with the name change. The name change doesn't really bug me, and making the setting in America or whatever, I'm fine with it. That does not bug me at all. Actually, that's a good thing. That's a really good thing to kind of bring it into this type of environment and do these little changes. It makes sense a little bit. And so, I had no problem with the name change. I had no problem with the setting change or whatever. So that didn't really bug me at all. However, Light, as a character, I want to talk about the core differences here, okay? When you think of Light, when you think about his character, tell me what you think of, okay? I will not speak about how I feel about Light or what I think Light is until you go into the comments and tell me who you think Light is, okay? I don't want to actually say anything yet, because I want to see what everybody thinks Light is. When you think of the anime and manga Light, what comes into your mind? What type of person is he? Light, in the anime and manga, he is a very, very cold person, but he cares for his family. But he is someone with a bit of a god complex. And we've seen this throughout the journey of the anime and manga, that he eventually became like a psychopath. He was someone that was going crazy. He was just becoming straight up evil throughout the journey. He started off as a good guy that had morals. He was doing the right thing, but then eventually turned into like this murderer and all that. And he no longer was the same person he was when the series first began. But that was very interesting where his character went. So I had no problem with that. And that's what you think of Light when you think of the anime and manga. Someone that went over the deep end because of power. He got so much power he felt like he was a god. Well, in the movie adaptation, the American version, Light is nowhere near the Light in the anime and manga. Not just in terms of character or development, but personality. When you think of Light in the anime and manga, he's someone that is very intelligent, he's calm, he doesn't let his emotions show, he thinks about every opportunity he could get the advantage over someone. He is someone that tries to keep everything close at hand. He doesn't like to reveal his secrets. He wants to know things, but he doesn't want to give up any information. He takes a lot of, I guess, very safe routes to achieve what he wants. He doesn't want to have any risk. Even with his killings, even though it seems like you could get away with a lot because he can kill through a book, he doesn't do things that could give him any form of risk. He takes his time and plays it safe. And in this case, that is not the case for the Light in the movie version. The Light in the movie version has no regard for his own well-being or safety, and he clearly is not that intelligent at all compared to the Light in the anime and manga. Let's just start off with the scene with the girl. So, the girl, Mia, which I'm assuming is representing the main female character in the anime and manga. In the anime and manga, she was a little bit of a klutz, or a ditz. She was ditzy, she wasn't really that smart, and sometimes she honestly was there just to hold Light back. But in this case, it was like it was a role reversal. It was like the girl was the true Light, while Light was Misa, or however you say her name in, the original Death Note. So, I was very confused about that. I'm like, why wasn't she just the main character? It's kind of like Light's character got split into two. Like, if Light was split into a female and male version of himself, and then they got together and they fell in love, in a way, when you think about it, that sounds like something Light would do. He was probably a narcissist, and he did have a god complex, so. Yeah, but anyways, so jokes aside, still, when it came to the girl's introduction, besides her being more like Light than Light himself, she was introduced as someone that was very crazy. She was a psycho. That's how you got her, like, the impression from her. You're like, she has to be crazy or whatever, because she's like, oh, I want to see that man's head get crunched in or whatever. And you're like, holy fuck, you're creepy as hell. And Light, he had the Death Note, and he was like, hey, You want to see this? I could kill people with it. You want to see how it works? He straight up was holding the Death Note in public, with everybody can see it, which goes completely against Light's character in general. Like I already said earlier in this video, Light in the anime and manga, he was someone that kept everything secret. The Death Note wouldn't reveal it, wouldn't let anyone see it. He was very, very, very careful, and he never wanted anyone to know anything about him at all or what he was really doing. But in this case, this Light in the movie, he's holding the fucking Death Note after confirming he could kill someone with it. Remember, Light in the anime and manga, when he confirmed he could kill people with it, he hid that shit. He's like, ooh, I gotta be, very careful and all that. And in the movie, he's carrying it around in public, like, thinking all that, like what he did, and the girl walks up, it's like, oh, what's that, what type of notebook? He's like, oh, Death Note and all that, and he's like, here, you want to see how it works? He talks her into seeing how his Death Note works, and he shows her how it works, and he kills with her. Do you not see what the problem is here? Like, okay, if you read the anime and manga, or you watched the anime, read the manga, you know the problem here. It's not just the fact that they're horseshoeing romance with Light, it's the fact that Light giving up his secret of the Death Note that easy. That easy. It makes no sense with where the series comes from. Death Note is a series about a battle of wits. It was a very different beast in Weekly Shonen Jump. When it was coming out, many were hyped up because it was just so different from the normal battle manga. When you think of at the time when it was coming out, like Bleach, One Piece, Naruto, and all that. It was so different. It was vastly different from what everyone usually sees, and it was very stunning and original. Many loved Death Note for how it was, and it made waves, and that's why it became so popular, was because it was not the standard fighting type shonen. It was using your mind to overcome your opponent, and that is what the main point of the series was. Light overcoming L overcoming Light, back and forth battles, thinking each other, trying to figure out what each other's trying to do, their next move they're going to pull, and that was the enjoyment of the series, why I love the anime and manga so much. But in this case, the series, the movie or whatever, it completely undermines that. It undermines everything that made Death Note Death Note. It has a bunch of flashy deaths, it has romance, and it has it to where, like, it's not a battle of wits anymore. It's just like, oh, I'm Kira, I'm killing people and all that because they're bad people. Oh, let's throw in some romance here. Oh, I like this girl and all that. Oh, she wants to kill me. Oh, I'm going to kill her. Hey, I got away with it at the end. Wait, maybe I didn't get away with it. Cliffhanger. That's basically it. You're like, what the hell did I just watch? This is absolutely atrocious. So, besides him just telling her how the Death Note works, which, like I said, goes completely against Light's character. It's completely out of character. There's another scene with Light that is completely out of character, and that is Ryuk's introduction, the Shinigami. Okay, so, you know how Light was in the original source. He was someone that could get scared in some ways, but at the same time, he didn't show a lot of emotion. He's like, oh, and that was it. But the Light in the movie, as soon as Ryuk popped up, he freaked out, started screaming and running like a chicken with his head cut off, all around the room and all that, and I'm like, shut the fuck up. Just, please, shut up. Like, it's not even the fact that Light screaming like that is completely out of character. It's the fact that the actor was really bad. That was really, really bad acting. Like, the acting was on a scale of, like, the actual Star Wars, the first new Star Wars that came out and all that. Not Rogue One, but the other one. Finn's voice acting and all that, or his acting in general, is just atrocious to me. I know many are going to be like, what the hell are you saying, Chibi? Star Wars is a perfect 10 out of 10. I'm sorry, I didn't like some of the acting in the Star Wars movie. You can hate me all you want, but I'll be completely honest here. I will not lie to all of you. And honestly, his acting, Light's acting, was just atrocious. It was just an abomination to the character Light. The actor just did not do justice to Light's character at all in terms of just acting, to the way he just carried the character, the intelligence of the character, the way the script was. It made no sense at all. Just, the character was not a part of the Death Note series. It felt like this character was just there, and the screenwriters, whoever was writing this part of the series and writing Light's character, was like, hey, we're copying from Death Note, but let's make this character an emotional, over-emotional, angry teenager that wants to be edgy. Let's make this as our main character. No. See, Light in the main series, he had like a god complex. He was like a college student. He was someone that was outthinking some crazy people. But this Light doesn't do that. He's just, oh my god. So, besides the laugh scene and the acting and all of that, let's talk about the restaurant. So, you remember when L confronted Light in the series, when he confronted him saying, like, you're Kira? You remember when he popped up in front of Light, he's like, you're definitely Kira, and he was, like, saying, like, I know it has to be you, but he couldn't prove it? You remember that was a big thing. That everybody was shocked, like, holy crap, Kira's gonna be found out. Well, that scene kind of happened in the movie. However, it wasn't intelligent like the original source. When L talks to Light, like, I know it's you, he gets over-emotional, but then Light's basically saying he is Kira. The way he acted in the entire scene, it acted like he was Kira. Like, the way he carried himself, the way he was talking to L, he's like, yeah, I'm basically Kira, cuff me. And I'm thinking, like, you're so shady. Like, the Light in the original series would not have been like that. He would not have acted that shady. Like, just the dialogue, the tone of voice, just everything. Oh my god, Light just gave up that he was basically Kira in that one moment. I'm like, how could L, which is like the top #1 detective in the world, not even know you're Kira now and put you away after something like that? Like, oh my god, that was horrible. That was just like, are you trying to give it away? Are you trying to show that Light is not that intelligent at all? Then, let's talk about the scene. Oh my god. Okay, let's talk about L. So, L as a character, at first I thought he was going to be a very good character. I really thought he was going to be an excellent character, because of the way he was introduced, he had the same sweet habit and slothful behavior as the original L from Death Note. I'm like, oh wow, they're actually getting a character right. They're getting a character completely right. They have it to where he has the same habits, the way he's acting and all that, the way he's being secretive at first. I'm like, he's acting like L. I'm liking this. But then the character went very south. Now, I don't dislike the character because he is a black guy being L. I just want to be completely front with all of you up front and let you know that's not why I dislike the character. I'm just going to say that. The reason why I dislike the character is because he's over-emotional. Very over-emotional, and also lacks intelligence just as much as Light does. Maybe, no, you know what, I take that back. He doesn't lack as much intelligence as Light in the movie, but he definitely is nowhere near the level of L, like where L should be. And let me explain. In the original series, you remember how L was when he was introduced? He was very secretive. He didn't want to reveal his identity. He had a voice changer and all of that. He didn't want no one to know who he was, what gender he was, where he was, anything. He just had a big L on the, monitor and all that, and all in the news. Nobody knew who he was. And he was doing this because he didn't know how Kira killed people. He had no idea, so he was keeping everything secret. And thanks to the little chats and all that, and figuring out where he was stationed, like, Kira in the anime manga, he figured out where he's stationed because the way he aired the, the broadcast. He figured out, how he probably kills because the way, it was done, the way the broadcasting was done. He just didn't reveal anything at all. He got more information from Light than Light actually knew, and Light was very shocked about this because he fucked up, even though he was playing his cards very safe, which was a very awesome moment in the manga or anime because it showed how intelligent L really was. But in the movie, it's a very similar scene to where L walks up and confronts Kira on TV, but he's not behind a computer monitor. He's not with a big L on the screen. He's actually on live television talking face to face to Kira, basically. He's like, hey, come kill me, basically. Here I am. And he has his face hidden all that, just his eyes showing, but that's not the point. the big thing is that what made L have that type of outfit in the first place in the anime and manga was because he actually managed to figure out that the only way Kira could kill people was if he was able to see their name and face, because he had to do a couple of tests with it first. And we saw none of those tests at all. L didn't do any of these tests. So when he walked out in public and was talking to Kira and telling him how he was going to hunt him down, it was like saying, hey, you know, I'm nowhere near as intelligent as my counterpart. I'm taking a risk here. I don't know how you kill, but I'm still going to come out in the open before you can kill me or something. I don't know if you're using a silent weapon or whatever, but here I am. So I don't like how that was done. I do not like how that scene was done, of how L was not really caring that he needed to be secretive at all towards Light. Now, the next thing I need to get back into is L's overreacting, or him just being over-emotional. One of the big things that I did not like about the character was that he was so over-emotional. Yes, L in the original series had some emotions. He did act upset a few times. But the way the screenwriters and all that, and the people that directed this, they made L's character just way too over-emotional. He was freaking out, he was shaking, this man was just going crazy, not acting like L at all in terms of character-wise. I mean, even going as far as to grab a gun, point it at Light, and then he also apparently wrote Light's name in the Death Note at the end. Now, that's left up to speculation for a possibility of a sequel or something, but still, just that scene alone completely goes against L's character for what he stands for, his morals and everything. What he did, how he was raised, just seeing that scene, like, oh no. So, just like Light's character's bad, but L's character is on a bad level as well. So, both characters were just complete and utter shit. Okay, so with that being said, let's talk about Ryuk. So Ryuk's character, I gotta say, out of all the characters, he's probably the best. Oh, hands down, easily the best. Like, the only decent part of the movie. One of the only decent parts of the movie was Ryuk. Ryuk and the actor behind it, the famous actor, perfect. Perfect. Voice acting, CGI, everything about it was brilliant and good. I have no problems with Ryuk scenes at all. Very, very good use of the character. Some scenes were a little bit iffy, like kind of pushed the boundaries of Ryuk's character from the original source, but overall, very, very good character. Have no problems with it. Probably the best part about the movie. No joke. That's actually what redeems this movie in some ways, is just because of the character and the actor behind it. Now, besides that, let's talk about the rules. So, as we know, the Death Note has a few rules. That was in the original series. That was established, that the Death Note has rules and certain things and how it works. There were some things that were changed, however, with this movie. Number one, a big rule, is that if someone's name is wrote on a page, like, you know, how the Death Note, you write the name and you gotta know their face or whatever. When their name is wrote, if someone goes in and burns this page, then that means that that person will not die. You actually could save someone from their death. Okay, let me use an example. As you know, in Death Note, when someone's name was wrote, they died of a heart attack. Oh, I need to speak about that in a second. But basically, as you know, when a name was written, they died from a heart attack in like 45 seconds? I believe it was 45 or 55 seconds. I could be wrong. It's been a while since I've seen Death Note, like the entirety of it. But basically, you have it to where once their name was written, they were destined to die. Well, in the movie, if their name is written, obviously they will still die. However, if you grab the page and burn the page, then the person will no longer die, which is very different from the original. It actually is kind of like, oh wow, this is going to be used for a plot device for something like this to be done. And it was used as a plot device to get Light out of a very bad situation. However, towards the end, you don't really know if Light survived or not because of what L was doing. For instance, it looked like he wrote in the Death Note because Ryuk popped up and he was like, oh, I find humans very interesting. And then we cut the credits. So I don't know what really happened there, but regardless though, that was just used as a plot device to get Light out of a bad situation. So I don't really like the way that was used, the way that rule was added just for that alone. If they were wanting to use like some form of ways to get Light out of a bad spot, for the rules of the Death Note, they could have used the original rules. They could have followed the original source. But they had to add a new rule to get him out of it, which just like, oh my god, that was horrible. It was bad. But another rule is the fact that if you're the owner, obviously you can see the Shinigami. However, you remember in the manga and anime, if someone touched the Death Note, they were able to see the Shinigami. For instance, L was able to see the Shinigami when he grabbed the Death Note, and he was able to communicate with the Shinigami. Well, that rule is kind of altered in this movie. The owner of the Death Note can see the Shinigami, but anyone else that's not the owner of the Death Note cannot see a Shinigami. So that entire bit in the Death Note series, to where, like, it was a big plot point where the Death Gods or the Shinigami could be seen by, like, L and everybody else, that was non-existent in the movie. So it kind of made things easier for Light to get away with, because he didn't have to worry about people touching the Death Note and seeing Ryuk. So that was a different change. Now, speaking of the paper burning, this one is not really clarified, and this is the big problem I have with the rule being added that wasn't from the original series, is the fact that the rule is very vague. You don't really know how to interpret the rule because it's left out in the open. Ryuk, throughout the movie, the way his role is played, it seems like he's kind of similar to how he was in the original source, but he is very much against Light. He is very much against him. Like, it doesn't seem like he is on his side at all, which he was never on Light's side in the original series, but it's like he's set against him. He's more against him and just on a neutral side. And when you look at the scene when they talk about the burning of the page, Ryuk is behind Light and Mia, and Ryuk's like, he looks like very strange, and when he says something, it's like, oh, you can only use it one time. The way the look was done, it looks like Ryuk might have been lying. He was implying, like, oh, you could do it more, but he was lying because he didn't want them to get out of bad spots through burning pages. That's what it looked like to me. It looked like Ryuk was lying about the rule, because, like I said, this rule is something new. It wasn't in the original series. So, for all we know, what Ryuk said could be a fucking lie. He was just lying. He didn't need to actually say, like, you know, oh, it could be used multiple times. He said it once because he didn't want them to escape death many times. So, yeah. Anyways, the rule, or the way Ryuk was done with that rule, is vague because it said burning. But what happens if you rip the page and cut it up? Like, when you think of ruining a page, what would happen besides burning if I was to take the page, put it through a shredder, chop it up? Okay. Now, I guess the reason why it meant burning is because it changes it and you can no longer write on it. I'm assuming so, because if you cut it into pieces, I guess you could still write on. So I kind of answered my own question there. So then let's take a different example. Let's say I used acid. I got some form of chemical acid, melted the page. Is that considered burning, or is that considered something else? Could I burn it and then use acid? Just different sources of getting rid of the paper? I mean, that was very vague, and you don't really know how that rule completely works. And that's one of the big reasons why I don't like this movie either, is because, remember Light in the original series, he was someone that experimented with the Death Note. He experimented with the limitations, and he found out things that not even Ryuk knew. He figured out things that were just absolutely insane, and he went through so many trials and errors to figure out how it worked entirely, how the Death Note, like certain limitations of it, how he can change people's deaths, how long he can manipulate them for. But he doesn't do that. All the rules are set there before him in the Death Note, giving him a helping hand. It's like oh, here you go, here's a tutorial and all that. Here's a handicap mode. I was really disappointed in that, because I would like to see Kira manipulating the Death Note and trying to find some loopholes. Which loopholes were brought up, but they weren't really focused on that much. It felt like just a piece of the original source that they didn't really even want to expand upon in the first place. So I was upset with that. I was upset with the fact that that rule they added purposely just for a plot device, it was very vague, and you can interpret it in so many ways. So let's talk about the deaths now. Since I've been talking about the rules, let's talk about the deaths from the Notebook. Now, when you think of movies from Hollywood or American movies, you always need to have romance. You gotta always have that forced romance. Oh yes, that always has to be a thing. It always does. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm a man that likes romance series. I've admitted this many times. I love romance manga and anime, and yes, even regular literature. I love romance stuff. It's my big thing. I like it. However, just how I feel about harems in anime or manga. I feel very similar to that towards the romance in American movies. A lot of romance is just forced in there just to be there. And it doesn't have a place at all in the literature. It's just there just to be there. It's a cliche. It's like those panty shots, or, a tsundere, punching the main male character for no reason at the beginning of a series of anime or manga. That's similar to that, but this is an American cliche. We gotta throw in that romance. And the romance between Light and Mia was very forced. Didn't make any sense. And it was just, it distracted the main concept of what Death Note was about. It was more of a love story between two angry teenagers than it was about a battle of wits. Seriously, it's like saying, let's give two angry, over-emotional teenagers the ability to kill anyone with a book because they're very upset with the world. Instead of, let's have Death Note that's a battle of wits where these two intelligent people fight each other with their minds and figure out who will win in the end, because they have to outsmart each other. That wasn't the case in the movie. It was all about love, romance, and Light. Oh my god, it was cringy. It was cringy what he was wanting to do for her. Like, oh my god. So, that was... yeah. Didn't like that. Didn't like that at all. Anyways, let's talk about the deaths, okay? I said I was going to talk about that. Let me get back into it. So, the death sequences of the movie, they lack the original signature of Death Note. When you think of the deaths in original Death Note, the original source, you know that the heart attacks were the signature killing move from Kira. That was Kira's signature. You remember what was discussed in the manga? L said, like, every serial killer has their own way of doing things, their mark, who they attack or how they do it. And in this case, Light, or Kira's way of killing people, was his signature through heart attack. That's just how everybody knew it was Kira. But in the movie, he didn't do that. There was actually not one case of a heart attack in the movie at all. I mean, Kira was set up, or actually, Light was set up to have died from a heart attack in the movie, but he still didn't die from it. So, basically, there was no heart attack in the live-action movie, which is Kira's signature in the original source. Every death was a flashy death that reminded me of Final Destination, and it was just trying to be edgy. Now, don't get me wrong, the death scenes were cool-looking, but that's it. They didn't have that same impact as when you see Light just killing a bunch of people and you just see them falling over because of heart attacks and that badass soundtrack in the background. You don't have that. So, the death scenes lacked what the original scenes had from the original source because they were just flashy and edgy. They didn't have that signature, the heart attack from Kira. So, yeah. Anyways, I think I've ranted long enough. There's so many problems with this movie that, honestly, I could probably spend another 30 minutes discussing. And I don't want to do that. I really don't want to do that. I've already wasted enough brain cells on this movie, and I don't want to continue talking about it anymore. It was a shit movie. End of discussion. I mean, if you like the movie, go for it. Enjoy it. Fine by me. I won't hate you for that. However, as someone that knows how the original source is and sees all the problems in the movie, not just because it's not adapting the original source properly, but because the acting, to the way just it was written in the first place, it just was a really bad movie. It was a really bad movie. And it's not one of those type of movies that you watch it just to have a good laugh. It was just a bad movie all around. So, I didn't like it. I didn't. And if there's ever a sequel that comes out, I'll watch it. But I probably am not going to like it. But, yeah. Anyways, I'm going to end it here. You all have a wonderful day or night wherever you live. Please be safe. Chibi out.